See about that weather.
That weather,
Mate. It's dodgy ass. Oh fuck. Swing dog, how are you, mate?
mate. Straight away.
Fancy seeing you here. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Hey,
Share it on my page.
hello, your friends come say hi.
Should probably do that. Get some people involved. It's a bit pointless doing this just talking to ourselves, eh?
Yeah. Let's do it. Oh no. Here's trouble.
That's Gal. G'day, Gal. G'day.
G'day, mate. How are ya? We're just gonna wait till 10 o'clock and then we can get started.
11, I believe.
Sorry, 11 o'clock.
Got a couple more minutes. Just gonna be chatting some shit until then. And then we'll get started officially.
We're just talking about wrestling,
Love your support, Gal.
but wrestling won't be on the cards today.
No, we won't be too. Yeah.
We're just getting excited about The Rock and
If you smell.
people doing their speeches and how they confidently just come out and do their awesome speeches.
Yeah, I mean, we love a good speech.
Everyone loves a good speech.
We've got to up the speech content in our shows now that we don't have Timmy with us anymore too. We have to have a new speech guy. Maybe you can have a mic on stage.
Maybe.
You can be the speech guy.
It might get in the way of my head banging.
That's dangerous giving Wally a mic. Far out.
I don't want to misrepresent anyone.
Yeah, okay, fair call.
I just have to wear my own brand, and that'll just be me representing myself. Unofficial. Sweet? Unaffiliated.
Unaffiliated.
Unaffiliated,
Yeah.
that's the one, yeah.
Sounds about right.
So, hope everyone's having a good day. Weather's good up here in Brisbane.
Yeah, it's pretty warm in Brisbane. You know what they say.
Man,
When it's warm in Brisbane, it's cool in Gata.
that it is.
Fuck, I'll see myself out.
Here,
Get out.
Anyway, what do you reckon we get started?
Oh, my clock still says we've got another minute to go, so we'll just keep chatting some shit until then.
We use the clock on the wall.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, no, wait.
Oh, g'day, mate.
Thank you, D.
Fancy seeing you here. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Well, that's about time, isn't it? May as well get started.
Sure.
Well, anyway, g'day guys. Andy and Wally here from Wartooth. We're just coming at you live for the first time. We're here today to have a bit of a chat and a bit of a discussion about some of our song ideas, some of our lyrics, what the songs are about, but also like why we wrote them and what they mean to us. And obviously all of that is part of a bigger umbrella that we're running at the moment through social media called Insider April.
So, yeah, obviously our Inside April campaign been going for about 14 days now. Would have seen lots of stuff on Instagram and Facebook about it. The whole reason we're doing this is basically just to start to share with our fans, you guys, who we are as musicians and who we are as a band. Obviously, we've both got individual influences which impact the way that we play our own instruments. But then obviously we've got influences that we draw as a band which helps create our own sound. The biggest thing is that we play heavy metal, but it's not our only source of music. We both grew up with very diverse music exposure, and we try to draw in a lot of that, not intentionally, but sometimes it just pops up every now and then in our music.
Sometimes intentionally.
Sometimes intentionally.
You've got to keep it interesting.
So we like to be able to, just show you guys that it's not just about playing metal to play metal, but we're just playing music because this is what it is, and it turns out to be whatever that is that we are.
That's right. And some of our songs certainly have all got messages that we want to spread and share with you guys. Like, I think that's a big part of Insider April too, is going into what those messages are and sort of going into some detail about spreading those themes and concepts and ideas that we have and opinions that we have about certain things, certain topics. And yeah, so we're just trying to expand upon that.
Sure. I think the other thing is, song lyrics, obviously they come from somewhere. They don't just appear and they're not forced either. It's important for us to be able to stand behind our music to play something genuine. And so obviously the song lyrics have got to be something that we believe in, something that we're passionate about, something that we're happy to stand behind. So we're going to go into detail about how the song lyrics come to be and what it is that they then create, or what was created that made us write a particular song, something that happened either in our lives or something that we seen, and we went, oh, we need to say something about this. We have a perspective that we want to voice, and that's what this band is all about. You know, we have things to say, and we want to say them, and so we made a band that we can play music and have these discussions with you guys and create that culture and that community that, you know, we both get to talk about these things that happen to us in our lives and in the country we live in and in the world that we live in.
That's right. I think music's a big part of, it's an important platform to be able to share those opinions and emotions and ideas and all those other things. You know, start a discussion, maybe have a bit of an argument with some people. Those sorts of things, like that's the point of art, right? Is to like question things in society and question what people think, and maybe if you can change someone's mind or if you can reinforce someone's belief or whatever, like I think that's a job done. And certainly our music, a big part of our lyric writing is that we have ideas and opinions rather than sort of just going, you know, let's write about how sick thrash metal is. I mean, obviously Thrash Attack. So like, yeah, don't jump on me all at once there. But yeah, a lot of our songs from the EP and definitely from the album, we've got something to say about the world that we live in, and maybe about ourselves and things like that. So we're really trying to share that. And I guess that's all, again, what Inside April is about, going into some of those things, starting that discussion.
For sure. So we can basically get started and start talking about one of the songs.
So over on Instagram, you guys might have seen, we've been popping up the lyrics to Sabotage quite a bit, sort of going through each one of the lines in a bit of detail. And so if you haven't seen that, jump over to Instagram and check that out. We've been talking about, Sabotage. So the song is written about the Australian political system. I came up with the idea and started writing lyrics back when Abbott was running for government. He was an absolute master of the sabotage. He just would sit there and bag out and rip on the other team quite a lot, the Labor team, and it ended up winning him a seat. He had no great ideas. He had no policies. He was just literally running the other guy down that much that it made him look decent, and so ended up getting voted in. And I just thought that the Western political system, not just in Australia, but in America and the UK and a few other countries, all kind of work off the same system. You don't need good ideas. You just need to run the other guy down enough that it makes you look like a saint, and then, you know, you're pretty much in. And I just thought that system was complete bullshit. And so I decided to write a song about it, hence Sabotage. So yeah, we're sort of having a bit of a discussion about those lyrics over on Instagram, so we won't go into that one too much detail today. But if you're interested, jump over there and check that out.
I think it's definitely, you know, running in this sort of system, we got to ask ourselves, like, how can we make a decision? You know, we got to go and vote in a couple of weeks in May. We got to go and vote for someone, but the only thing that they're telling us, this person, when I'm running for a seat, choose me because this guy's not going to do this, or this guy's going to do a thing that causes a problem.
Yeah, don't vote for that guy, vote for me instead.
That's right.
Not for any other reason other than don't vote for that guy.
That's right. He's not coming out to give you all these great ideas and all these solutions and all this hard work that he's going to put in to outwork the other bloke. He's just trying to say what he's going to do is something and the other bloke's going to do nothing, or he's going to do nothing but the other guy's going to do damage. So it's better, you know, there's no promotion of the team that's going to win.
The ideas.
Yes. Yeah. How are we going to move forward? How are we going to be able to progress with good people in charge in a good direction if no one has the balls to stand up and say, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it and this is why we need to do it, and everyone's going to win if you choose me and my system because I've got a good process and therefore, you know, it's superior to everyone else's. You know, one person who did that really well, we've both read his autobiography, Arnold Schwarzenegger in California.
Definitely.
You know, he didn't give a stuff what anyone said. He was like, this is what we need to do to make the state better. And so I'm just going to get in and get the shit done.
That's right.
Got elected, got it done. You know,
one of our latest posts on Instagram was about that sort of bitter pill or tough to swallow pill. About sometimes you got to do things and it's going to upset a few people initially. It's going to cause a bit of friction. People aren't going to like the idea. Everyone's not going to jump on board straight away. But sometimes those are the ideas that are the best ideas long term. You've just got to get through that initial rocky patch, I guess, and the negativity that gets thrown at you initially. And I think that's one of the biggest problems is that politicians don't seem to have enough balls to be able to get through that for fear of losing their seat or for fear of getting too much backlash and not being popular. And that's one of the biggest problems with the system is that people don't have the balls to be like, this is a good idea, wait until you see the results, and then you'll sort of understand and it won't be so negative. And yeah, as you say, Arnold Schwarzenegger was really good at that. He just stood up and was like, this is what we need to do. We're going to do it. I don't care if you dislike it initially. And now California's booming and its economy is great and it's got a lot of development and a lot of the things that he put in place, even after he'd finished, even after his term was done, still all the results hadn't come to fruition yet. But certainly like 5 years later, everyone was sitting there going, oh, actually, I did a really good job here. Like we should have been more thankful at the time, but obviously they didn't know what he was going to achieve until they saw it.
Maybe it's one of those things where people who are trying to get elected in, they talk about, oh, we're going to do it for the benefit of the country, the benefits or whatever. But it seems to be at the moment, in the last decade or two, no one's got voted in and put in a thing for 15 or 20 years. They've all spoken about what they're going to do in their time. And so do they have to come up with policies that are going to have a quick result and like, oh, vote me in because I'm going to get this thing done in the next 2 or 3 or 5 years, whatever the case may be, and then we'll get all the benefit from that. But that's not a sustainable solution. None of us are here for 5 or 10 years. We're all here for 50 plus. So we've got a plan for those. Yeah. Like we're not sitting around, oh, let's set things up for next week. We've got to put in the hard work.
Yeah, sometimes the long-term goals take a lot of hard work without any sort of result initially, and you might not see anything for 5 or 10 years or even longer sometimes. But then down the track, it comes to fruition, and it was a good idea that it got started back then. It's like planting the seed of a tree. You plant the seed, you water it, you don't see a tree. You might not even see a tree in your lifetime, but the next generation or the one after will have a massive, awesome tree to thank you for, even though you won't be around to see the results. But if you hadn't planted the seed, they wouldn't have the tree. And then if they didn't plant the seed, the next generation wouldn't have a tree. It's that same concept. Sometimes you have to do something without the expectation of seeing a result within your time. That applies to politics and a bunch of other things in your own life really as well. Sometimes you have to do something now that's not going to pay off for a long time, but long term it will, or hopefully it will, at least anyway. So I guess that's part of the system of sometimes you just have to get through that initial rocky patch and do something for a long term. Yeah.
So in the words of Sab, how do you think that you help to identify the problems, or how do you address a solution, or is it just all pointing out the problem? Is there any solution in the song, or
the song itself I think is more pointing out the flaws with the system rather than poking anyone in particular, naming names or shaming people? It's not so much about that. It's about the system as a whole and about how we sort of, in a sense, we let the system keep doing what it's doing because there's so much negativity flying back and forth, mudslinging, all the rest of that. This guy's bagging out that guy's bagging out this guy, everyone's bagging everyone else out. And then we just go, well, he's got the least amount of mud on him, we'll vote for him. Or she's got the least amount of mud on her, let's go with that system. So us as people, we sort of vote mindlessly and we vote with what the media, we make our opinions up from all the mudslinging and sort of see like who's got the least amount of mud on them at the end and just go, yeah, that'll do. The lesser of two evils, right? So yeah, we kind of enable that system in a way, and that's part of what the song is about as well, is how we are allowing this to happen. The song doesn't so much go into a solution for that, but I think the solution is kind of clear, and that's like, do some research. We have to do some hard work here to have a vote that's going to make sense, but isn't that better for the country and the economy and all those things long term? If we make smart decisions rather than just emotional ones or ones based off like 5 minutes of watching some ads on TV and go, that guy seems alright, or no, that guy's no good, we'll vote for the other team. Like, voting is an important responsibility, and I don't think Australians take that seriously enough. I think that's a real big issue in this country, which again is part of what's in the song. So.
Or maybe that might be where the idea lies. Obviously a lot of people have the opinion that their vote might not matter or they might not mean anything. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, someone's got to stand there and say what to do, like how to choose a good candidate. But the thing is, the candidates aren't the ones who do that.
Obviously the candidates are going to say, "I'm a good candidate."
That's right. The media is influencing, the decisions that we make by portraying 100%. Things. But we as individuals, we need to go out and make our own decisions and justify our own choices, and then realize that actually has an impact on the system that we're operating in.
Sure. And it's not necessarily about like, oh, my vote for this election will make a big difference to the country. It's about boosting the system as a whole by having a conscious vote, an intelligent vote, rather than just sort of throwing some emotions at the wall. You can start to build the system to like make people care more about these things, and start with conversations with people. And maybe, like I was saying before about planting the seed, this particular election, if you put some intelligent thought into it and do a bit of research on the candidates and things, and you make a smart vote, then coming up to the next election, you can start having conversations with people and arguments even, and start having politics be part of discussions. That's not all like football team mentality of like, oh, I vote for this team and the other guy votes for that team, so we're just going to argue about principles. Like, that's exactly what the politicians do. And that's the problem with the system, is it's this red versus blue versus a bunch of other little guys that are never going to really have a shot. And it's a football team mentality of like, I support this team till I die, and I can never vote with the other guys even if they got a good idea. It's such a childish and simplistic way to run a country, but also, as I said, it filters down into the conversations that you have with people. Like, if you try and have a political discussion with somebody, it very quickly turns into an emotional argument about, I disagree with you because you're saying the other team's idea is good, and I don't agree with that team, so therefore I can't agree with the idea.
Yeah.
And coming back to Arnold Schwarzenegger, one thing he really did was sort of obliterate those party lines in a lot of ways, because he was right up the middle and just went sort of, this guy has a good idea for this particular topic, that guy has a good idea for that particular topic. So I'm going to go with this guy for that idea and that guy for that idea. And you don't have to have this like dogmatic separatist approach of like one team or the other. Sometimes people have good ideas, and I don't think you should shoot them down just because they're on the other team.
That's right. That's right.
Which, that's part of the big issue with our system.
For sure. So what we'll do is we'll take this conversation around. We'll take it away from politics. We've got a question from Sweeney. So obviously talking about a song called Chainsaw Dentistry there. So
oh yeah, Chainsaw, good one.
We'll say that this song won't be on the first album. It's still going to be Chainsaw Dentistry. It'll definitely have its time to shine. But it was written by Andy when he was going through a bit of a rough patch with work. Obviously, the words chainsaw and dentistry is something that doesn't really sit very well together, but it is,
Well, it's a bit of a play on words. I mean, chainsaws have teeth, right?
Chainsaws have teeth. Yeah, they do. So it's definitely one of those songs where there was a lot of emotion involved. Definitely something that we're both happy to stand behind and talk about the message. So
Chainsaw was written a few years ago, actually, around the same time as Thrash Attack, and it's been in our live set quite a bit since then. But we don't feel it's got a place on the first album just because of its subject matter compared to a lot of the subject matter of the other songs. But Chainsaw Dentistry was about sort of me growing up having this idea of a career that I wanted, and obviously a lot of people around me supported me to chase that career, like parents and friends and teachers at school and all those things, like really pushed me to be like, go chase that dream and make it happen. I went through uni, spent a lot of time studying, just about killed myself really through all of that. Not as in literally, but it certainly ran myself down a lot. I got a job and I started working, and I just sort of thought, this is not at all what I thought it was going to be like. This is not something I want to do. And at that time, I still felt a lot of pressure from all those people throughout my life that have pushed me down that path, that I would be letting all of them down if I sort of gave it up at that point and turned to music or to something else that I enjoyed. And all that pressure sort of just built upon me, and I decided to write a song about that and sort of take it to a bit of a comical end of, maybe comical,
Extreme.
maybe dark sense of humor.
Yeah.
Dark sense of humor. But yeah, certainly an extreme of like, this song's about a dentist who's had all that pressure on him. And then one day just snaps and starts murdering all his patients with a chainsaw. I mean, how fucking metal is that? But like, I mean, as I said, it's kind of a dark, twisted song with a bit of humor in it, which, you know, through the name as well, with the pun. And the lyrics are kind of fun and tongue-in-cheek a little bit as well. But it's got quite a serious meaning behind it and quite a personal meaning behind it. So.
And the song, the music side of the song, you know, it was written in such a way that it almost portrays that transition from the person, you know, just being happy, going to work every day. And in the song, it doesn't really repeat any sections. The song goes from section to section and definitely gets more intense, and has this massive climax at the end.
Yeah.
But what we tried to do with the music there was to build up that intensity throughout the song, and that fits along with the lyrics too. So it starts off, you know, it's a good heavy section at the start, and then we go into the verses and the chorus, and then the outro, or the bridge and the outro have this, you know, the cool breakdown part, and then it just goes absolutely rampant.
Yeah.
Just the way that someone would start to get pissed off, you know, they're happy.
They're going crazy. Like,
yeah.
The pressure's building and building and building, and then they just snap.
Yeah.
And just let loose.
It just comes from
music,
zero.
yeah, the music kind of represents that transition through the song, as does the lyrics. Of, you know, you start off with a bit of pressure and you're all good, and then you just get crazier and crazier. And,
yeah.
Pressure keeps building and building until you snap and go insane and start killing people. So yeah, the music kind of represents the lyrics in that way and takes you through a journey of the idea through the music and through the song.
Yeah. So that one's actually a really good example of how we're able to incorporate all elements of the music into something that actually happened, you know, or not actually happened, but something that's definitely really relevant in the life that we live in. And it happens all around us, you know, every day. Like, you have people who have mental health or whatever, they just snap, things in life get too hard, or they just overwhelm them, and then they just snap and they just go on rampages, and, you know, unfortunately,
or they off themselves as well.
That's right. They don't worry about taking out others. They just take out themselves. And so it's unfortunate that we have to live in a world like that, but maybe that opens up a conversation for people to have to, you know, stand in and help each other, you know, but people have to be able to open up about the problems that they're facing before it becomes too much of a burden, before it becomes snapping point. You know, we've got to have the humbleness to be able to say, like, oh, you know, I'm struggling a bit with pressures at work or at home or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And we've got to be able to talk to someone about that. But then we've also got to be that person for the other people in our lives. We've got to open ourselves up to offer that conversation to people, because they won't always have the, you know, they'll be too embarrassed to talk about it or whatever.
Or just too involved, and don't want to sort of burden you with that responsibility.
Yeah,
that's one thing, like, I felt when I was in the middle of that, is like, because I had felt like there was so much pressure on me from other people about, you know, following this career path and really pushing it to the nth degree. I really felt like I was letting them down, and therefore they were like the last person I could have a conversation with. As I said, like family and friends like that, I really thought they were all kind of really supporting me down this path, and by having a conversation with those particular people saying, like, this is not something I want to do anymore, I would be letting them down and really just shoving it in their face. And so for me personally, that was a really hard battle to get through that. And as you say about being humble, like, I think in the end, before I snapped, thankfully, I managed to start talking to some people about it, and, you know, the conversation started slowly at first, and just sort of like little bits and pieces here and there. And then over time, I was able to open up enough to be like, look, this is really not something I want to do. This is really, like, I even had the conversation about letting those people down, and sort of said, like, this is why I'm feeling this way. And it took a lot of, I guess, courage to be able to have that conversation with those people initially. And I've learned a lot through that process. And I can honestly say, like, if you're not happy in your work, don't keep doing it, because it's where you spend most of your time every week, like sleep and work, and then you've got a few bits and pieces in between. But like, work is a big part of your week. So if you're unhappy there's a good chance you're going to be unhappy in the rest of your life as well.
That's right. It definitely has a flow-on effect to the other elements. You know, people have problems at work, and it always flows over to their home life and stuff like that, because it is, you know, it's a majority part of your day, work and sleep. So
That's
If one of them's not good, then it's going to flow on and affect everything else, which then has, a whole river effect to everyone around you, and then they start to put that resentment back into you, and then just a negative cycle. You don't want to be in that, but unfortunately, you're the only one who can do something about that. So,
well, that's it. And like you're saying about that negativity, feeding off negativity, you go to work, you're miserable. Everyone around you is going to be miserable. You're not going to be as productive. Your work's just not going to be as great for the people that you're working with and for, but also for yourself as well. And that just will create this loop of negativity that's just going to poison everything. And as I said, for me, it sent me into a dark place. Not, as I said, not to the point where I snapped and did any damage anywhere, but certainly internally and in myself, it was a rough time. But I got through it, which is good. It's good to see that. So.
Sure, for sure.
Any more questions over there? What's going on?
And yeah.
Just Dylan's keen for another kebab and a beer in Melbourne. Mate, that kebab, I think you had an HSP. That was amazing. I'm keen to get back there. I can't even remember the venue, but if you send me a message, we'll try and get a gig down there this year because that'd be awesome. You guys are going to try the kebabs. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, okay.
Best kebab I've had ever.
Obviously, a few more places in Melbourne starting to open up.
That's it, yeah.
Shows, so.
I can't remember what the place was called. It was Bailey Graham's gig, but I can't remember the name of it. So, but it was near there. It was not near the Bendigo or anything.
Okay, again, the city.
It was in the city somewhere, but yeah. It's a good kebab. Definitely can recommend the place once I get a name of it. And I'll be like, go get a kebab.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I love a good kebab.
Alright. Is there another song in particular you want to talk about?
Well, I think on the topic of Inside April and social media, and certainly we're building up quite a bit of a social media presence at the moment, we can start to talk about that sort of thing. So Wired to Die was probably one of our biggest songs off the EP, and that was written around social media and its negative impacts on people's lives and things like that. I think one of the biggest things with Wired to Die was I was really trying to be conscious with the lyrics, not to sort of say social media is bad, but more the way we use social media is bad. Obviously, it's a great tool. It's a powerful tool to be able to share information, share knowledge, share some positive energy with people and share support and get in contact with your mates and network and all those other things. It's a great tool. It's a massively powerful tool. And it's certainly great for bands and other small businesses and stuff to be able to promote things, all of those things. But the way that most people use social media is spreading bullshit, spreading negativity, and just sort of a lot of people get really caught up with this fake lifestyle of I've got to be an image of like the perfect reality online, which simply just isn't the case, obviously. But so I think the way that we use social media is quite negative, and that's what I wrote Wired to Die about. Just sort of that concept.
There's a lot of whinging that occurs. People have the ability to stand up on social media and they can whinge about something, but it's not always the way that they will be in person. And I think that's one thing. You talk about keyboard warriors and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you've got to be able to stand there and say whatever you want to say in person if you're going to walk around and say it online. And
yeah, I think so.
So people try and spread all this hate. But then, maybe that's prevalent in real life anyway.
Maybe they're thinking those things and just don't have the guts to say it.
That's right. And so they just use it as a tool to hide behind and try and affect other people and bring them down. And, I've made changes to my Facebook page simply because I got, sick of people. I just, you'd be on Facebook having a read of things and all you see is people either whinging about stuff or complaining about stuff. And okay, like people might be suffering or whatever, but just the general thing is like, why is everyone being so negative?
It brings you down.
Exactly right. It's like, what happened to someone having a ripper day at work or something? Like, does that not exist anymore? Or people don't feel that necessary to put on Facebook? And I think it's definitely one of those things where we've got to be more conscious about what we're doing and what we're utilizing social media for, because
what we're sharing and what we're posting.
Yeah, it'll just end up being a tool where everyone just creates this massive negative cycle, like we were just talking about. You go into work creating a negative cycle, you come home and you're going on social media, you're creating negative cycles. It's the only direction you're going to go is get sucked into this vortex,
spiraling downwards.
Go down.
But that's what kind of Wired to Die is about. It's Wired to Die is kind of like taking a futuristic look at like where the world's going to go if this keeps happening with that negative spiral. and sort of gets to the point where it's AI is kind of taken over. Like this is in the song, AI is kind of taken over, looks at the human race and all the bullshit that we're posting on social media, which realistically, in another 50 years, is going to be the history of the time. Like we look back in time, we've got books and scriptures and things like that of what life was like back then. When people look back to this point in time, they're going to have social media to look at. And if this is the representation of the human race from this time, it's definitely not a good one. So yeah, in the song, it's kind of AI is looking back at this, looking at all that shit, and going like, this species has had its time. Like it's time to go. Certainly for the benefit of the planet and the benefit of AI's existence, they'd be better off getting rid of us. And yeah, so that's kind of why today takes a look at that. And the end of the song is AI wipes the human race out. Yeah.
And it's definitely one of those things where social media and technology is obviously growing faster than it ever has, and it's growing exponentially. And so in order for that to become to the benefit of us, we need to, make sure we're using it for its positive reasons, not its negative reasons. And of course, these technologies are always introduced with the pros in mind. People aren't introducing technology change to bring everyone down or to make damaging impacts. They're always put into place to make things more effective and more efficient. But the problem is, if we overutilize and over-rely on these technologies, that's when it becomes a problem. Just like anything in your life, you can't have too much. Everything's got to be done in moderation. But, we catch on to this thing. Yeah, we catch on to something and cling on to it. And
obsess over it.
Just obsess. And we just more
your life.
And then, time. And then it becomes the main thing. And it's like, that can't be the way, because we're human beings. We're not machines yet, so we can't completely rely on them. We still have to have elements of conversation, and we still have to be positive and force ourselves to be positive, because otherwise, if we're all just in a machine that's all negative, then that's the only way we're going to think, because the machines don't control our thoughts yet. We're still in control, so we've got to be the human side of that and make sure that we're still taking care of ourselves.
I was having a conversation with somebody at work about this sort of thing the other day, about sort of that negative vortex of technology and the lack of human element with it. So like we talked about before, about how you can post things and say opinions without having to stand behind them and without having to have any repercussions for that. There's been a lot of research already done, and there's been plenty of discussion about how all of the interaction that we're having online is sort of making us more disconnected, and taking away the human element of conversation and the art of being able to interact with people. And part of the conversation I was having with my mate the other day at work was about how people, through online chats and through text messages and all that stuff, you lose the art of body language and being able to read body language, which has a massive amount of flow-on effects for things like relationships, things like even doing business deals and just interacting with people generally, like at a cafe or anywhere. By not having conversations with people, by not getting out there and talking to people and interacting, it has massive effects for all of those things, which in turn affects people's mental health and all that stuff. I mean, there's been plenty of research and discussion about that in the last sort of 5 to 10 years, so we're not stepping onto anything new there, but certainly trying to make sure that people understand that and get involved in that conversation. Go and talk to someone. Go talk to someone face to face. Like,
have an emotion.
We'd love to have this chat in front of a group of people and have you guys all spitting things back at us and make it a big round table discussion. That would be ideal, but certainly logistically at this point that's not possible, but in the future that'd be
that's probably why they made Skype and Facebook live stream, so you can sit there and have these conversations with people.
And people can post comments and ask questions and things.
Sending a message isn't going to be the same. Everyone's sitting around messaging each other. You're not going to get the conversation, and that's what body language and emotion is more important than actual word use.
It's the way you say things as well, the inflection and all that stuff. That's hugely important.
Big thing.
Produces whether it can be sarcasm, but this sarcasm doesn't come through on text messages, and that's just one of the obvious ones. But there's certainly a lot of other inflections and things you can put on things. You can say the same sentence in 10 different ways and mean 10 different things with the same words. So obviously you lose all of that stuff with chat.
Sure. And it takes it from one extreme to another. Sentences can be typed from here, and it can also mean the other end of the scale. It can be very beneficial, or it can do a lot of damage just by saying the same thing.
That's right. I mean, you guys probably noticed it. Like, I've noticed it certainly in my own life. You'll text something to somebody, you're having a conversation, you send them a message thinking you mean this thing, then all of a sudden they think it's funny or they get offended or whatever, and you're like, no, that's not at all what I meant. You have to try and reword it and say it a different way so they can understand. But if you're having a chat with them face to face, that misunderstanding wouldn't occur.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
All right.
Yeah, but that's Wired is kind of along those lines about social media and its effects on the people and its effects on society. And as I said, it sort of takes it to the creative end of the AI destroying the human race because we're not worthy of the planet, which is also kind of a similar but different concept to Benevolent Destroyer, to answer Sweeney's question there. So Benevolent Destroyer is kind of about the same thing, about how the human race has really gone downhill. As society, as people, we're destroying the planet, we're destroying ourselves, we're definitely not living the ideal life. And Benevolent Destroyer is kind of written from the perspective of like a sort of a deity, a god. Like, I'm not a religious person, but I certainly grew up with some of that in my life, that influence. So I kind of sit there imagining if there was a god and he was looking down at this planet of people that he created, if you're talking about the Christian sort of image of a god, are we what he'd expected? Are we what that God intended? I think we've gone well and truly off the path, not from just a religious point of view, but also just from a human point of view, and a society's point of view. Like, we're not in a great position at the moment. We're not doing great things for the planet. I mean, obviously people are. It's not all doom and gloom, but certainly if you'd created the race of humans initially back in the day, and it had evolved to this point and really gone off the rails, like, would you be happy? I certainly wouldn't be. And that's kind of what that song is about. Is like God, like, looking down at the people, going, "Wow, shit, I fucked up here. I got to end this before it gets totally out of hand, destroys the rest of the planet, all the other species, and the ecosystem. And we're going to Mars in the next 100 years, and we'll destroy that planet too. Like, we're a plague, we're a virus," which is some of the lyrics from the songs.
Yeah.
And the song is about that God having that really tough decision of, like, I made this thing, it's gone to shit, and now I have to destroy it. Even though I created it with such passion and such high hopes, I now have to abandon it and sort of get rid of it and kill the thing I created. Like, it's almost like if you're a parent and you made a child and the child grew up to be like an absolute shit of a human being. Yeah. Like, you can't be proud of that.
Whoops.
Obviously, you can't go and kill that person, but, like, if you had to, for the benefit of society, like, could you? It's something that you created. It's
the moral question you must be able to ask yourself. And
yeah,
what you've said there's so many elements that come into that. If you look at the environment, like what we do as human beings to the environment, that's obviously questionable. A lot of things we do. Also, how we interact with each other, the way we do or don't accept each other, the social side of that. You got the economic side of that. Everything we do seems to be for monetary gain a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And so everything we do is just to the benefit of one individual. Every decision I make is just to benefit myself, and every decision you make is to benefit yourself. But the idea is that, well, the whole planet should be trying to benefit the whole planet, but
do something for someone else.
There's a balance that is really difficult to find, but in some aspects, we definitely haven't found that balance at all, and if we go back talking about the original conversation about sustainability and stuff like that, we've got to make decisions for the future, not just for ourselves, because otherwise there won't be anything left.
That's it.
And that would some sort of creator person who made anything, that's not what they want. They don't want to build something for a short term. They want to build something that sustains and that becomes self-evolutionary and takes care of itself.
In a good way, in a positive way. And like, if you're starting a business, if you're running a project,
everything you do for yourself.
If you're creating a band,
yeah,
like anything that you do, you want it to then go and grow itself and be a positive impact on the world.
Yeah.
At no point does anybody create something going, I want to fuck shit up. I mean, some people do, but like, it's the same, like we were talking earlier about planting that seed. Sometimes you have to do something that's hard that you're not going to see a result for the long-term benefit of someone else or of society or whatever. And I don't feel like there's enough of that stuff going on in the world these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of bringing the conversation back around to a full circle. So we might kind of wrap it up there. I don't want to overload you guys too much. We'll do another one of these videos soon anyway and have a chat about some more songs and answer some more questions. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have any more questions or any comments, or you just want to continue this discussion, make sure you post some stuff on the links there below, or get to us on Instagram or Twitter or anywhere you like, really. Even hit us up personally. We can keep having this conversation. I mean, I could talk all day about this stuff, really.
Exactly, man.
So yeah, if you guys have enjoyed it, we'd love to hear your feedback, positive or negative. Whether you think even just basic stuff like, is the audio good, is the video quality good? We can't really tell until we sit back and watch this in another half hour or so and be like, oh wow, like, they couldn't hear us the whole time. Like, that was a bit pointless. But yeah, so yeah, we're keen to hear you guys' feedback, positive or negative, comments, questions. If you ask us some questions, we'll try and get them answered either soon or in the next video.
Yeah.
So yeah, just keep the discussion rolling below, and until next time, I guess, have a good one.
See you later.
See you guys.